Getting it now. Right, looks like we might be back online now. So give us a moment. We're coming back. Apologies about that. We had audio device there, where it says device on the drop down.
Keep this open.
Ah, okay, right. Okay, well, it looks like we might have audio on the stream at the moment. Can someone just type us in the chat if you can hear us? There we are. Yes, sound. Excellent. Cool. Okay. Well, there we go. Sorry about that. Looks like we're having a couple of issues there, but you've got us back. Sorry. So, where were we? Training Tuesday. We're here. Looks like there is still audio. Good. I can see it on 11 meter here. Welcome to Training Tuesday. What a start. And we were on time for once as well. Tyler always gives me jip that he can't hear us. Sorry, but we're late. And yeah, here we go. We were on time, but you couldn't hear us. But never mind. So welcome to Training Tuesday. Coming to you live, as you can clearly tell by the production of us going on here. But we're here. Live from Southampton. Last week I was live to you from Belgium. Here we go. So today we're going to be talking about some of the new features in 1980, looking at specifically the effects side, but we'll talk about some other things like plot image backgrounds at the same time as well. Hopefully you've all had a chance to download 1980 now. It's been out for a good week now, our new beta. We're seeing lots of good comments on it online, etc. So do encourage you, if you're not already, do take a look at 80, take a look at the change notes, and you'll be able to see what's new and changed in there. So without further ado, I'll dive into MagicQ here. You can still all hear me, hopefully. If you can't, please type in the chat. I can see good comments in the chat saying, there you are, you can hear me. Excellent. So you'll be wishing you couldn't hear me by the end of the session, but there you go, you can hear me now. So 1980, as I'm running here, good meaty release, lots of new features in here. I'm first off going to go to Setup. I'm going to go to View Settings. I'm going to go to Queue Storage, and I'm going to flick on Group Queues for now. I'm also then just going to go out to my layout 1 here, and I'm going to grab my spots. And we're going to talk about some of the new things that are in 1980. So first off, if I go Add Effect, and I pick any effect I like, let's just go for Intensity because it's good and easy for you to see in the viz, and I chuck a dimmer chase on there. I did cover it at the end of last week's Training Tuesday, but there's a bit of a recap for you. So I've taken on just a basic dimmer chase, and I'll just take my width down to say like 25%, like so here. So one of the big things we added in 1980 was, of course, directions. You've got some new directions. You've got these bounce effects here. We heard you. You've asked for them for a while. So I've got a forward bounce, which once that runs, you can see does what it says there. It will now do a bounce from side to side. Let that run a cycle, and there you go. You can now see it will now actually do a bounce from side to side and back again. There we go. Look at that. So you've got forward bounces, backward bounce, in bounce, out bounce. So you've got your bounce effects there. Excellent. So if I just flick that back on a standard forward effect again here, you've also got more one-shot effects. So if you've not used a one-shot effect before, we've had one-shot for some time, which I can say, okay, we'll run the effect once and then stop it. We modified that in 80, so you've now got 2-shot, 3-shot, or 4-shot effects. Essentially, it will run the cycle of the effect that number of times. So if I said it's a 3-shot effect, if I record that onto my playback here, clear my program, I run up the queue, you can see it will run a cycle once and then go a second time. Remember, I set this to a 3-shot effect, and the third time I run it, it will run that effect, and then after the third time it will then just stop running. And there you go. It doesn't release to playback because I haven't set that in any settings. I haven't set any releases in there or anything. The queue is still active, just in the effect. If I look at it, it's been set as a 3-shot effect. It runs 3 times and then it stops. So there you go. 2 things: bounce effects, different shots, 1, 2, 3, 4-shot effects. The other thing that we added is what's called chunk effects. I know I've shown this a couple of times in the Training Tuesday, but as a recap, because you probably want a chance to play this by now. Again, if I take my spots, I set them to 0%, I add an effect, let's go intensity again, let's go for a dimmer chase. You now have the option on segments here. I think when I first demoed this, we weren't actually released on it, but now if you hold the shift button down, again, all the good stuff's under shift as always, if you hold the shift key down, you'll notice that segments turns to chunks. So I'm just doing it on my keyboard now, and if I now wind the encoder, you can see I've now got, okay, in, let's go for 4 chunks or something. Let's see, what am I going to go for? 4 chunks, there we go. So I've set this to a 4 chunk effect now, and you can see it takes my 12 heads and it splits it into essentially 4 chunk groups there. Let's take the width down a little bit. Okay, let's speed that up a little bit. So a chunk-based effect, okay, similar to doing things with segments. Okay, you might say, okay, it's in segments of 3s. Well, not quite, because it is completely group-based. So if I go to my group here, and I go to the heads, and I took out, say, that head, that one, and that one. So I take out 4 lights, and I re-record the group, like so. Bosh, it's been updated live. So you can see it's still in 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have slowed the head down, but there's now 2 heads in each chunk. So there's now 8 heads into 2s, so into my 4 chunks there, as expected. And of course, if I go and put all the spots back in again, 101 through 112, and I record that back into the group again, it's updated completely live on the fly there. Just looking at the chat there, Adam's got a question there. Are we going to see an option or method to run 1-shot/2-shot fully without cues being engaged, e.g. press the flash once to run the full 4 times without sitting there holding the flash? Not currently, because obviously that releases. Now you could do something like put a release time on, but obviously that means you've got to do a little bit of calculation with working out how long it needs to be active for. But I do hear the point there. You are welcome to go, and if you've not already, go and request start on the bug track, and let's see if we can do that in the future there. So yeah, not right now, but do feel free that you can go and request that. Another question there, just looking at the chat. How does minus work with bounce effect? It looks like the width does affect differently, e.g. normal. Yes, yes. The best way to think of a bounce effect is think of it like one-shot effects running forward and backwards, if that makes sense. So essentially it's taking a one-shot one way, a one-shot the other way, and just repeats it and on and on. So hopefully that kind of helps you understand what to do with N minuses, etc. there as well. Right, okay, so we talked about that. While I'm here, I want to just remind you about things like linked groups. Now, we introduced those a little while back. Linked groups, obviously, now with chunks, even more so important. So if I select a top level group and I do something like an odd even and I record a group, you can see it will give me an odd group. I press next, it will give me then the even group. Indeed, even things like holding my odd even button down, I get to chunks, and I can say, okay, well, give me a group that's 3 chunks, store that there, and that's going to be in 3 chunks. The first section, you can see it highlighted in red here. Next head, record there, would be my 2nd chunk group. Next head would be my 3rd chunk group. Now, all of these are linked groups, so you can see they say L in the top right corner, or 6L, 6L, because 6 heads in each, linked back to my master group, which is 12, so half of them, the odds, is going to be 6 heads, and then the evens, another 6 heads, and then the chunks of 3, 4, 8, 12, 4 in each one of those. Now, of course, they're linked back to the main group, so at the moment, if I locate chunk group 3, it's those 4 heads there. Again, it's all linked back to the master group, so even with that in the programmer, in fact, if I locate the next chunk group like so, let's put a color on it, and I locate the first chunk group like so, and put a color on, and then I go to my spots here, and I go to the heads, and I actually decide to update that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm taking 4 of them out, and you can see I've picked 4 random ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, like so, and I go and update that group here. You can see, even with that being in the programmer, it updates. So it's changed, okay, 3 to 3, because obviously 3's into 8 doesn't divide, so somewhere I get a 2. If I was to put a 3rd head back in here, so if I took my spots, now remember it does things in head number order, so if I go for putting that in here, and I go and re-record that there, you can see it's added. Ooh, should have done. Apparently I didn't select it. Let's go 101 through 112, select all of them, record back into that spot group, and you can see, bosh, it's back in there again, like so there. So it does it dynamically on the fly there. Other questions there, looking in the chat here. Hi from Australia. Do chunk effects work with multi-element fixtures? Very good question. I haven't actually tested that for myself on here at the moment. I would normally with effects we run through elements. I'll have to check that and find out for you. Unfortunately, I haven't got anything patched in this show that's particularly good for multi-elements. But I'll tell you what, maybe I can do it on these Nexus panels at the back. So let's see. If I just turn off beams from multi-elements, otherwise it's going to wash out my camera here. What better way to find out than doing it live on the fly for you? So let's find my Nexus panels here. Let's turn off shadows, the red highlighting. So let's not highlight the selected fixtures. And let's go for locating those. Let's go for a, what can we run through those? In fact, let's just run a dimmer effect through them. So if I switch them off, I think they've got a VDim on. Excellent, they do. So let's put a dimmer chase, including the elements, which you can see is running through all the elements. So take the width down a little bit, like so. And let's go chunks of 2. Let's see what happens there. So you can see it splits the whole thing there. So actually, if I go for something like 50 chunks, you can see it does actually include the elements within that. You can see the fading on there. So it's actually adding together the total number of elements across there. So if I was to do 2 chunks, you can see it takes half and half. If I split into, say, 12s, you can see it divides number of pixels up by 12 and runs through there. So yes, answer to your question, as we found that on the fly, yes, it does work with multi-element fixtures. I'm glad that works. So hopefully that answers that question for you in a nice visual way. Other thing I want to mention in 1980 is we've added the ability to set background images in the plot window. So in your patch window, you're normally patching things in view heads. There's a 4th tab, view viz, which is where we set the visualizer up. We've added a new tab here. So you've always had selected heads. So if I go and select, say, my spots, they appear here. Viz heads is everything. And then attach objects is where I can put in things like my trusses, pipes, objects, etc. there. We've had a new one called plot background images. So you can now set images for the plot window, which can be relevant for the top, the front, or the side elevations of my plot window. So if you're not familiar with the plot window, if I just take out this for now, if I go to my group window and I click view plot here, this is my stage plot. It's generated from how things are arranged in the visualizer. In the plot window, we can do some cool things, like we can do things like fixture selections. So I can go, okay, click and drag, and I could select my spots. I can locate them, and I can do things like focus hold and say focus them all on the guitarist there, or focus all the lights on the keyboard player. You can of course do that with time, so 3 seconds over to the keyboard player there, like so. We can also allow you to do things like focus lines, which allow me to take my selected heads and spread them across a line. So it's cool tricks you can do like that already in the plot window. But of course, things like selecting in here, what we've added now in this latest update is, if I go back to my patch window, is the ability to set background images, which you can scale. So if I go to File here, this takes me into my MagicQ Show Bitmaps folder. So if I'm on a PC system, it's in my Documents, MagicQ Show Bitmaps folder. And I can go and pick something. Okay, I'm going to pick, say, the ChamSys logo. I can choose a scale, and then I can invert the image, flip it, and I can set then its position. So if I take that X offset off, and I set the brightness as default as 1, and I go to my plot window, so close that, you can see I now have a ChamSys logo here in the middle of my plot. Now if I want to move that and scale it, well of course, as suggested there, I could scale that. Okay, so if I set that to 2, close this down, you can see I've now got a much smaller logo. If I want to change its position, okay, I could set that to say 10 and close that, and you can see the logo is now off to one side. If I want to drop it down a bit, so I'm going to say actually 15, and position is going to be minus 15 there. Let's see how that looks there. Oh, it's gone off the plot, gone too far, James. So let's go minus 10. Let's see if that's brought it back. There you go, it's up the top now, a little bit off. So actually I should have done, say, something like 14 and minus 9. And you can see, oh, if I open the plot window, wrong one. Let's go group, view plot. There you go. I've now put myself a background image up the top here. Now you can have multiple images, so I can take, say, another one, which could be, I really need some better color, images, don't I? So let's take this one here. Well, who knows what stageplot.png is? Take this one. Doesn't seem to have put much in, does it? So let's close that down again. Let's go with one that we know works. Let's just go with another ChamSys logo and close this. And we should see that we have here another ChamSys logo, hopefully. Maybe we don't. Okay, so we need to figure out what's gone on there with that one. Actually, it's probably because of brightness. If I drop this one to, say, 0.3, we'd probably be able to see our one underneath it, he says, but we can't right now. So maybe we don't like using 2 files. But you can see I've got brightness control for my images, and maybe this doesn't have an alpha background, this image, which is why we're not seeing there. I can set brightness control, so I've got my brightness here, where I can modify there. Okay, so brightness down to 0.1. But the idea being that you can Okay, I've used it to brand up my plot window, but the idea of this is that you can overlay an image which is maybe your venue plot. So maybe actually you've not even bothered to put trusses, etc. into your plot. You've just laid fixtures out. Maybe you've done something like an MVR import. So if you've done an MVR import, you just get the heads. You wouldn't get the trusses currently. We are working on an updated MVR import for the future. So if you've got an image of the background, you can drop it in here. And of course, now with these options you've got in your patch window here, you can do things like scaling the image, setting the brightness, its position, etc., and moving it around the window as you need. I remember now where I was going wrong. So in the plot window here, you have a selectable. If I go to view background here at the top, you can choose the image ID that you're viewing, like so there. So you can flip between two different images, like so there. And you can see that changing as I move through my encoder there. Just take a look at the chat. What else have we got there? Anything we're not picked up on? Something there about re-triggering one-shot effects on a flash button. Really good. Yeah, okay. Something we could definitely take a look at. And Joe's saying you're having problems with bounce in other directions, other than. It says directions bounce back and bounce. Maybe Joe, if you wouldn't mind, drop us an email. Send it to support@chamsys.co.uk with your show file. It's probably one for us to try and investigate there for you. So do drop us an email and so we can look at there. So there you go. There's a couple of new things or more than a couple of new things in 1980. And next week's Training Tuesday, we're going through a few more of the new features in 1980. In fact, you've got Chip next week. You get a break from me. Lucky you. So we're looking at more of the execute type things that are in 8.0. We'd love to keep hearing your feedback on it. So please do carry on in the chat. If you're watching this later on, do comment in the chats. We do pick up the chat as we go through the week. And do get in touch with us. Let us know how you're getting on. Do use the bug tracker. We do look at that, and so do our developers as well. Whether it's a bug tracker, it's as much used for feature requesting, etc. as well. So we'd love to hear from you on there. Thanks for joining us for Training Tuesday. See you again next time.